an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, a Song of Ice and Fire to the co-host Switcheroo, the rereading. Return to Westeros, HBO Spoiler Edition. In this episode, we're talking Dance with Dragons, chapters 56, and 57. The Iron Suitor and Tyrion. Well, we check in with Victarion, and he has discovered a red priest just floating in the ocean. Somebody we've met before.
Yeah.
How about that?
How about it?
And Tyrion decides he's going to risk it all and go make contact with Ben Plum. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm RoShawn.
What did you think about Victarion's chapter? We've been in it one other time.
Y'all, I didn't know who this was.
Oh my god!
I had to read the first two chapters, and I was just like, all right, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all, because you know that's how I do. I'm gonna tell y'all who I thought this was. The first opening sentences. I thought it was we just talked about him too in the last episode, because I keep forgetting his name. I thought he was the Valerian that absconded with all of Cersei's ships. I was like, this is the first two opening sentences. And I was like, wait, that's not right. I was like, who the fuck is this? And then I was like, oh my god, it's this fucking Euron's brother. It's that dude that sailed away. We haven't seen him in that 800 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the thing that I feel like is the drawback of deciding to name chapters. He has always just done the character name, but he's really trying to get fancy with it in this book, and I don't think that's necessary or helpful.
It's definitely not helpful. I mean, especially when it's someone that we have not checked in with for so long. So once I got who it was, I was like, oh, okay. And then I had to remind myself why I care. I'm just saying there are some drawbacks to having such long periods of time pass between when you check in with people, especially if it's someone that we've only had one POV chapter of his before. But once I got settled and I realized what was happening and who it was and where he was, and then I got reminded of some things, because he does have to spend some time reminding us what the fuck he's been doing and where he's been and why. I was like, oh, that's right. This plan of Euron's, which I hadn't thought about in ages, and that he's on his way to, get Daenerys.
Try and take Daenerys. Basically.
Right. Basically just take her to be his, he's taking her to be his, right? Or taking her.
Yeah. He was sent for Euron, but Victarion is fully I'll just marry her myself. Fuck that guy.
Also that he has not been in touch with home just out of spite. He's just fuck it, we're not sending any ravens anywhere. Fuck it, let them stew and try to figure out where we are and what we're doing.
Yeah, he's feeling very petulant in this chapter.
There is something about the Ironborn that it's not just them, but, and I know I've said this before ages ago, but there's something about the Ironborn and the Freys that are so petty and small, and you're just you almost want to be I need you to grow up. Come on.
Yep. fully agree. Yeah, it's just so like I feel like it's the nature of just being in a culture with their family where it's every man for himself.
Mm-hmm.
That is by its very nature an immature, childish attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And so it just, you're steeped in that, and you grow to be suspicious and untrusting and opportunistic in a way that is based around a very real fact of that you can't trust other people either. And you're probably proved right over and over again. And then you get stunted.
Yeah.
And you grow up to be a giant child.
Yep.
And maybe become president.
Ooh. No, she didn't.
Trenchant.
Commentary.
But yeah, we haven't seen him since the previous book, according to Austin's Info Corner. Hey.
What was that?
That was a raven. That's my raven sound effect that I downloaded.
That
for Austin. Austin, I'm not sure that one's adequate. There are some that's like a crowd of crows, like all cawing.
Ooh.
So maybe I'll do that, but they were kind of long. I liked that this was just a quick little, you know.
He sounds like a fucking gangster from the 1920s.
Oh man. I'm sorry. I lost track of what we were talking about. Okay, so I was saying that it was not since the last book that we have seen Victarion. And Austin has also included, very helpfully, a link to the Isle of Cedars, which is where he is currently at. I'll share this with you, but you can't read the page. You can only look at the picture because the page has spoilers on it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, appreciate that, Austin. Anytime that a link is included to another piece of information, I know Austin's serious. So the chapter begins with just a description of Grief appeared alone at daybreak. I love that the ship's name is Grief.
Yeah.
He cursed the storm god for his malice. Where are my ships? He had set sail from the Shields with 93. Of the 100 that had once made up the Iron Fleet, a fleet belonging not to a single lord, but to the Seastone Chair itself. And yeah, 54 left. That is fucking rough.
Yeah. They ran into some rough waters and some unfortunate circumstances. And he had decided to split up his fleet because he's got all these different types of ships, and some are faster than others, some are larger than others, and he just was like, it makes more sense to split up and we'll all meet again. And that's where he is now, at this place that you just sent me this little picture for, which looks like I'm not clicking that open, I'm just looking at the image. And I'm sure without, like, I'm trying to picture, I would have to compare it to like the map that's in the book to get a better idea for like reference about where they are.
Yeah.
But so he's at this meeting point at this what do you call that? The rendezvous point.
Exactly. There you go.
And waiting for the rest of his ships to show up, and they are slowly coming in. Some of them like barely in one piece, you know. And he's got the 54 that have made it. And now it's time to like get back. I want to say get back on the road, but it doesn't make sense because these are all ships. So get
back on the water road. Road.
No. So that they can.
The woad. Because it's water and road.
Ma'am.
Get back on the woad.
Ma'am.
I am Island-born. Oh, God. That's how I'm going to hear it now after saying that they're immature.
That's how they all sound now.
I'm picturing all these guys as like little kawaii figures with like stubby arms and tiny swords.
Oh my God. Also, can we talk about the monkeys that are playing?
Oh my God.
What a weird little detail to include. I love it though, because they are, there's a line in the chapter that talks about how most of the crew think that the monkeys and their shenanigans are really funny. And like, of course they are. Monkeys are hysterical. And everybody laughs except Victorian, who is not a fan of laughter, period. Mm-hmm. And then it tells us that, you know, he gets reminded of, like, whenever people laugh, he starts to worry that he's being the butt of the joke, that they're actually laughing at him. And then he tells us a little bit later that as a kid, his brothers mocked him often in that way, where he would think they were praising him, but actually they were fucking just, you know, talking shit to his face, and he just didn't get it because it went over his head.
Yeah.
And that made me so incredibly sad for him, and also like it explains so much. You know,
like this kind of thing. I think a lot of us have experienced this sort of joking, and I only experienced it a very little, and it still made an impression. But I know that there are people who have been subjected to it like repeatedly, and it just really gets in your head and makes it so that you don't trust compliments or like displays of affection or like praise, and it's so sad.
Yeah,
like just this whole family is so fucking toxic to each other.
Yeah, it's bad. It's the thing too about it being tied to laughter, especially, was really sad to me, because it is one of the few real joys in life. You know, is like honest to God, true laughter and like joy and humor, and that he cannot experience it in its purest state because he's been so traumatized. Yeah, that like, what a fucking life to live where you can't freely laugh and you can't enjoy laughing with other people or the laughter of other people because you're always worried that you are the object of it or the subject of it. Just like, of all the terrible, sad, tragic things that our characters have gone through, and there's been like some horrific shit we've all seen and read.
Yeah.
But there's something about this in particular that I was like, what a fucking terrible way to live a life. Like, my God, that sounds like an awful way to experience the world.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's interesting that in some ways, Victorian and Stannis have a lot of the same kinds of baggage, you know? And I don't know if Stannis was treated this way. It seems like his brothers weren't as cruel, but they probably did tease him. I don't know if maybe Renly, because he's younger, if he wasn't subjected to the same type of being ganged up on like Victorian was.
True.
But it's just like the two of them being so humorless and feeling so like set aside for their older, more badass brother.
Well,
that they,
that's the thing that they have in common in a real way, right? Is this sort of being outshined by their siblings and and having these brothers that they just sort of, whether it's fair or not, whether it's a fair judgment or not, they just don't seem to be the equal of the brothers. And sort of insecurity that breeds. And when you have a really fragile ego, a fragile sense of self, being humorless often accompanies that. Because you become like overprotective of your ego because you've been hurt so much. So like anything feels like an attack. Like the slightest thing can feel like a huge attack on your person. You know? Yeah,
definitely.
So that's the kind of like mindset he's in. And then he's got this hand. He's got a hand situation, y'all.
He do. Everybody's fucking dealing with some weird hand shit, it feels like, at one time or another.
It is something, I think we talked about this like early on in the show, maybe even when we were covering a TV show, but there's there's something about losing like your fighting hand. That like even in Star Wars, there's like this theme of losing your right hand is very prevalent, and it's, I'm sure people can write long dissertations about like what it means and what it symbolizes and all that. But we have another guy with yet another hand situation, and they take a little bit of time before we figure out till we're told what's happening with the hand. There's like a couple of references of how it aches and the pain is stabbing and shooting up his arm. But it takes a couple pages before we get down to the nitty gritty of what's happening there. Yeah. And he was in a fight with a knight and used his hand to like block a parry or something. And it was sharper than he anticipated. Mm-hmm. And it's not healing. And he's starting to suspect that maybe the blade itself was poisoned. And that is an outrage because only women and cravens and the Dornish people would use poison.
I don't know why, but that being added on there was just really like...
Right? I was like, how did they get in this? They just catching strays. Doran is minding his business in his own POV somewhere else, just minding his business, and here you come. But, and we find out that he's got this really gnarly wound that is infected, that really badly infected to the point where like it's just filled with pus and it smells and it's just like a bad, bad scene. Yeah. And there's this woman that Euron sort of gave to Victarion. Does she even have a name? I don't even think she has a name.
No, the Dusky Woman is all we get.
And she's like, she has had her tongue removed because that's how Euron gets down. And initially, Victarion is like, I'm not going nowhere with her. I'm tossing her overboard first chance I get. But and all it says is, but yet he like never. Every time he went to do it, he just never actually did it. And it was just kind of written in this way that I was like, what? Is there like, is she's not clearly not talking him out of doing it. Right. So is it that he just can't bring himself to do something quite so heartless? And I was like, that's not it. And then we find out that he really likes talking to her because like as Jamie discovered, there's something about talking to someone who can't repeat anything that you tell them. It's very like freeing, and he ends up dumping all of his emotional bullshit onto this woman. Yeah. Which I felt a little like, was that what she signed up for? Like, oh God, she didn't sign up for shit. Like just trauma dumping on someone who is in your employ, who can't consent to, partaking in this, that they just have to stand there while you just vomit all over them.
I'm sure that is the least of her worries. She has got bigger things. There's a point where she like did something, and it says he showed her the back of his hand.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that in 30 Rock when Tracy says, I'll show you the back of my hand, and then he lifts his hand and there's a Post-it on it that says, please be nice. That's what I think of every time that phrase is used now. That show is so problematic, but then there are little moments that I'm just like, nobody has done it quite like that.
Yeah, the whole I should probably not be like still watching it and supporting it in any fashion. But I'll tell you that I should have all kinds of issues with Tracy Jordan as a character and representation and all that. But I swear to God, some of the shit that he did on that show, I have never laughed so fucking hard. Mm-hmm. That the rant about the things that he saw as a child, and it remains one of the funniest things I have ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah,
I saw a pack of dogs successfully run a Wendy's.
Yeah. I saw, what was the kids would play basketball and the basket was a rib cage. A rib cage! Yeah, that was good. I just love him walking up to people on the street and saying, "Do you want to shake hands with a black millionaire?"
My favorite, I think I talk about it all the time too, is when he talks about race card. He's got a card that says race card.
Terribly sorry for the abrupt break there, but RoShawn had a sudden computer issue and had to restart things. And then I got a call from Owen, who has found a abandoned kitten. And so we had to take some time out and handle our business before coming back. So we have entirely lost the thread of what we were talking about before we, hung up on each other. But I have to trust that we were kind of being like, wow, Victorian, you are terrible. And also I feel bad for you because that's the general energy of him for me.
It's true. We were talking, I don't know if it's the last thing we were talking about, but we were talking about the dusky woman and the hand injury. And now it is time to talk about who they found floating in the waters, because we're just bringing back all kinds of, people that we thought we had seen the last of.
Yeah. So first, there's like
I think we're about to say the same thing. You go ahead.
I was just going to mention Ralph the Limper, who is like telling him that there's a curse on the voyage, and Victorian is also like actually kind of thinking that, but he just slaps this guy 2 times.
When he says it out
loud. The first is for the ships you lost. The second for your talk of curses. There's something about a dude slapping another dude that is so like, do you know what I'm saying? Like it feels like so mean.
It's a weird thing because it's rooted in sort of like misogyny, right? But
yes.
So like you want to call, like, you don't want to have the reaction to it that we have, but we have that kind of reaction because it seems like something. You slap a woman in the face, you don't slap a man in the face. And if you do that, that's sort of emasculating the man who was hit. Which is wild when you think about it, because you would think just getting hit in the face, period, would be enough to do the emasculating. But apparently it depends on the type of hit you sustain, right? Like if you punch me in the face. If you try and
punch, you're a threat. I'm trying to put you down because I am concerned you will come at me. If I'm slapping you, I have no worries about you trying to come at me.
Right. You are not a threat at all.
Saying, why don't you come at me then? Like, I just watched, have you seen Roadhouse?
Not in ages. Not in a very long time.
Owen and I watched the original, and then we watched the new one with Jake Gyllenhaal that was out on Prime.
Oh my God.
The past 2 nights.
Yeah, I forget.
Unfortunately, it's got like that MMA fighter, something McGregor, who's a real piece of shit in it. I don't know why they cast this guy. But there's a couple moments where Jake Gyllenhaal like slaps a couple guys, and it is just brutal. Like there's something about they're just like, oh my God. And when they get mad, he's like, what? It's just a little slap. Like he just says that to their faces. The movie was like weirdly funny. It took itself a lot less seriously than the original did. I'll say that.
All I can think about from Roadhouse is fucking Family Guy, when Peter just starts kicking everybody after he watches the movie for the first time. That just becomes his. He just like, and every time he kicks somebody, he just goes, Roadhouse.
Oh God, I will say that what's his name? The mustachioed cowboy is in that. And
the mustachioed cowboy.
So yeah, the one with the deep voice who's in Big Lebowski narrating from the bar, and he's also in that that Timothy Oliphant show. Anything that's got like a cowboy vibe, this dude turns up. He's also unfortunately been sort of like taken by right wingers as a meme because he looks like peak hypermasculinity in a lot of ways. So it'll be a smug look on him at the bar, and he's like, there's some byline about, I drank out of a hose, you know, something like that.
I mean, I drank out of a hose. I think of that as being a very specific Gen X thing, not necessarily a, right wing kind of thing. But I get what you're talking about.
Sam Elliott.
Oh, that guy. The mustachioed cowboy.
You know what I'm talking about.
It's so perfect. I am sorry that I did not know who you meant immediately, because that is a fantastic description, and it's really all you needed to say. That was my bad for not getting it. That is no reflection on you.
And he's in Roadhouse, and this man has never been so attractive. Like, goddamn. I just kept being like, why can't the movie star him instead of Patrick Swayze? They made a real error in judgment, in my opinion, there. And he has this longish hair. I'm sending you a screenshot of him, but there's a moment when there's clearly gonna be a fight starting, and he puts his hair up in a scrunchie, like half up. And it's like one of the hottest things you ever saw. It's like, it was that GIF, seeing it out of context, that made me want to watch the movie, because I was just like, oh, hi. So
yeah, he does look good.
I'm sending you that GIF as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the slapping in the new Roadhouse, I really like. The old Roadhouse, for what it is great, but it has a lot more of that like slimy 80s, always has to have at least one topless girl in it kind of thing. And it instead has like 12 topless girls and one woman who does a striptease for absolutely no reason, by the way. And the newer one shies away from that. It's also set in the Florida Keys, so it's beautiful. And it's weirdly funny. They have like Jake Gyllenhaal's character be kind of just a dude who's sort of over it, in a way that when people do stuff, he's just like, come on. Okay. And then he gets up and like beats the shit out of them, but it's so clear he doesn't want to be doing this. He would have been very happy if you had just let him finish his beer. And the fact that you're making him get up is like this deep inconvenience, and it's really funny. Anyway, so like I said, he slaps this guy, but he is thinking this guy is right. And I'm just like, I hate this for this dude. Like, you know I'm right, and that's why you're beating me. God, that sucks.
I mean, it's fucking accurate, though. There's also a macer that also came with the ship that Euron sort of insisted be part of this deal. And Victorian has got absolutely no use for this guy. And this description of this young man, whose name I think is Kerwin, who is like 21 years old, and he's described as being like almost feminine looking. He's got like, really soft hands and like a soft baby face, pink cheeks and brown curls, and a smirky little smile that is not so cute. Once he smiled at somebody who didn't like it very much, and he knocked 4 of his teeth out, and just like, that seems a little bit like an over fucking reaction. And then it gets worse because he gets assaulted by 4 crew member who just drag him down below decks and, sexually assault him. And when he goes to complain to Victorian's basically like, here's a knife, use it. Like, and good luck with all that. But this guy comes. But he
doesn't use it, evidently.
Yeah, doesn't use it. Too afraid to refuse it, but he had never used it, which is almost kind of very victim blaming, right? Like, if anything is still happening to you, it's your fucking fault. I gave you a knife to protect yourself. If you don't want to use it, then you get what's coming to you. And Victarion is wondering if maybe, because we talked about the poison, like the sword that actually injured him possibly being poisoned, but he's also wondering if maybe the maester is poisoning him. And when they find Makaro and bring him up out of the water, first of all, when they realize what he is, like a red priest, everybody on the ship is like, oh, he's got to go. He's got to go. Yeah. He can't be here.
It's kind of funny at this place, like at this point, how many people have this reaction to red priests. Like, how are they even managing to like move through the world at all? Right. Considering, but
I don't know how they're like converting
described,
people.
And I don't remember if this was mentioned in Tyrion's chapter, but as his skin being like jet black, not black like human skin is black, but like a kind of black that doesn't occur in nature except if something's been burned. I don't remember that. And I'm trying to remember if that happened like while he was in the water. Did he change in some way because of this storm and everything? I can't recall. I'm going to have to go back and see the way that Tyrion describes him.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I can't remember if Tyrion uses those words, like that extreme of like being black, like not even human, but like something else. This is when he smacks the Dusky Woman too, because when he brings him into his cabin and she's down there, she hisses at him.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Again, nobody likes this guy. Damn.
Not at all. But the reason that he's got Victarion's interest is because when they present him to Victarion, they're like, this guy knows things though. He knew that we were heading towards Slaver's Bay before anybody could have possibly told him. He knew that you would be here right off of this island. And he told me that you would die unless we brought him to you. And Victarion is like, word? That I would die? Interesting.
Yeah.
Then
just to, because we kind of skipped over it, but the Maester, like, he has treated Victarion's hand by like cutting it and draining the pus and everything.
Right.
And evidently, it's like so disgusting that everybody almost vomits just because.
Oh, it's bad.
You know, skin like stomach churning. And he had been recommended to do it outside in the fresh air, and he's the fuck I will. You think I'm going to let my men see this? Absolutely not.
Right.
Which I think he is right to do, but it's just so pitiful that you can't even
Yeah.
So
I agree. I'm sorry. I was just say I agree with you that and that he made the right call. Like you can't take that mess of a hand and let everybody see. Not with the way this particular culture works, where any sort of weakness would immediately be sort of sicked upon, and you would lose your standing. And your men aren't going to necessarily listen to you or follow you. You have to always be in a position of strength. You can't have any visible vulnerabilities whatsoever, and also you can't give anybody no one can know what your weaknesses are because they're going to try to exploit them. What an exhausting way to live.
That's the main one, I assume. Yeah, that somebody's going to be like, oh, you won't be able to fight back. I may as well just take this ship for myself.
Right?
Take command for myself. Yeah.
And it seems like this, the way that the Ironborn are, I don't think it would be a stretch, for that guy he just smacked in the face twice. He might be interested to know that one hand of yours is fucked up.
Indeed. So yeah, by the time that he goes, that he hears that Makoro is saying I can do something for him, he's trying to act like this thing is probably just going to heal itself still, but the pain is getting really bad. And he has been priding himself on not responding to the pain. When his wound is cut open and stuff, he just bears it. But he gets this stab of pain up to his shoulder that causes him to stumble and almost fall in front of everybody, which is not where we want to be.
Yeah. And Makaro knows about the hand, because when he the first thing he says is, Victarion is like, so is it true? You said you saw my death? And Victarion is like, okay, well, when and where? Do I die in battle? Like, what's happening then? And he said, your death is with us right now. Give me your hand. And Tyrion is like,
he knows all about this.
All about it. And he's like, what, my hand? What do you know about my hand? And this is when we find out that he's been seen in the fires, and he calls Victarion a puppet. He says, I've seen you with the tentacles that grasp you at your wrist and your ankle and your neck, the black strings that make you dance. And Victarion is like, I don't dance for anybody. How dare you, sir? What are you doing? Right? Literally, what are you doing? What do you mean?
Like, I really think that because he plans on double crossing his brother, he thinks that, like, coming out here is him flouting his orders. But it's just so funny because, like, I have to assume that Euron knows how much Victarion hates him, and that he would consider taking Daenerys for himself. He has to be aware, right?
I think that he would be aware that Victarion would think about doing something like that. I don't know how aware he is that Victarion would honestly try to make a go of it. Like, thinking it to yourself that, oh, I should be the one who's in charge. I should be the one that Daenerys marries. You know, it should be me. And then actually acting on those thoughts are two different things. And I don't know if Euron really
So do you think that Victarion's going to follow through? Like,
I don't think he's going to. Or
do you think he's going to get there? And okay.
I don't even think he's. I'm not certain that he even gets there to make the choice. I'm not exactly sure what's going to come up to be the obstacle that prevents him, or if it's just a matter of the book doesn't even get that far before it's over. But I don't think that we necessarily see Victarion get a chance to really make good on his plan or not. But I mean, I don't know. It could be, you know, it was so long since we saw him last. I don't know if George has any intention of showing me him again in this book. You know, maybe he had something planned for the next one, but I don't think that, like, say if I want to imagine the books are done and that this is already finished and written out, I don't know what it is about Victarion, but I think that if he were to actually make it to wherever Daenerys ends up landing, he doesn't follow through. I don't think he has it in him to really, really do. So in real time, for what we know of the books that it's done, I don't think we get there in this book. But in the imaginary world where the next book is done and George gets to tell us the story, I think that Victarion, I don't want to say bitch out because that's so sexist, but
punks out, yeah. And, that's like even though punk is like supposed to be kind of a good thing.
Well, it depends. Like when they use it in that fashion, oh, you punked out. That's actually like kind of like a little like homophobic because there's like a long history of calling them punks as well. But,
really? Slurs are wild. I can't keep track. We found too many creative ways to denigrate people. God. Anyway.
It's a real potpourri.
Oh man, okay.
So he says, give me your hand. And he says, basically, I can fix this. It's going to suck, though. It's going to be terrible what I'm about to do. But when I'm done, you're going to have your hand back. And Victarion is, I'm Ironborn. The pain, I can't even spell the word. Which is how it sounds in my head. And then so so we don't see it, thankfully, but we hear it, and they hear from the room singing in High Valyrian. The monkeys all leave the ship. They're like, bye.
You jumped right past the part that I find the most upsetting.
Oh, did I?
The crew of Iron Victory reported hearing the sound of wild laughter. From the captain's cabin.
I thought that was next. I went out of order, but okay, because that was where I was wanted to end up too. That was the most important part.
Laughter deep and dark and mad.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Who's laughing? I don't like it no matter who is doing it, but I would like to know. I feel like it's probably Makoro laughing.
I think it's Victorian laughing.
Right, like, I want to think that it's Makoro just because I want Makoro to just be kind of a bonkers, but if it's Victorian, that's like worse.
Yeah.
Somehow.
I think it's him.
He's not a laughing guy.
This is what exactly. That is the whole point. That's why it's him. That's why it's him. I'm so glad you caught that, because honest to God, I thought after the singing then came the laughter. But yeah, I skipped
laughter first.
Yeah, that shit was so unsettling. But and then the monkeys all leave, and then Victorian comes out with no shirt on, his left arm just bloodied, his hand charred and blackened, with smoke still rising from his fingers. I beg your pardon?
Yeah.
And then he points at fucking at Kerwin and says, that one, cut his throat and throw him in the sea. And the winds will favor us all the way to Marine. Because Makoro had seen that in his fires. And then there's talk about how Makoro had seen the winch wed too, which I'm like, oh, she's a winch now? That's really fucking unfortunate. What? How did we get here? but and he's not concerned about Daenerys having gotten married, because this is not going to be the first woman that he had made a widow. But I'm stuck on what happened in that room, and did Kerwin get, like, did Makoro say he's been poisoning you? Is that why he's been singled out? Or is it just a coincidence that we need to sacrifice? And like why is it him? Or does it not even matter?
Because the Maesters represent the seven, and the red god is a jealous god, and anybody repping for any other god needs to go.
Why are they always jealous gods?
Because we have very little imagination. That's really what it comes down to. It's the same as monogamy. Anybody who is brought up in the culture and then hears about other people being polyamorous, it's just like, well, that's just because you just want to cheat on each other, instead of it being like, well, maybe there's just things that exist that you don't like but are fine for other people. And that's just how religion is also. We can't just let people do their thing. God forbid, very literally. So the gods must feel about us the way that we feel about romantic partners, because when it comes down to it, we want to fuck God. And that's on that.
I mean, you make some very strong points. It is interesting, though, that we're always talking about how, God made us in his image, and it's like when the opposite is so clearly true. But again, it's a talk for another day. But and that's how the Victorian chapter ends, with a charred hand, a dead maester, and less monkeys than what we started with.
Fewer.
Ah!
Me and Stannis just high-fived. I just personally, look, I really don't like monkeys. I find them so creepy. And like occasionally
Is it because they're too human-like?
Yeah, they look like withered little old men. I just no.
Do you feel the same?
Like
do you feel the same about little old withered men?
That's neither here nor there, ma'am. I don't know, but monkeys look like they should have more fur, like a plucked turkey. Like you're seeing parts of them that shouldn't be visible because they should be fluffy and cute, and something horrible has happened to them, and it's making them be like
not you basically being like, go put some clothes on.
Yeah, a little bit, you know, and they've got fingers. I'm sorry, I don't really like any animal that's got like that kind of hand. Like I love raccoons, but they have paws that behave like little hands. Those don't look like hands. They look like paws. And if you have like little raccoon tracks around, they don't look like handprints. Monkey shit looks like handprints. No. It's either a withered little old man or some possessed like toddler, which is also terrible. Shitting into his own hand and chucking it onto the deck? Absolutely not. These men are already very unsanitary. We don't need to be adding this sort of creature into the mix, you know?
That is a valid fucking point. Things are already quite messy and unsanitary, and now we have added on a layer of grime and potential shit just that we don't really need. But I have to say, I cannot look at a monkey and not laugh. And it could be because I am of a generation where monkeys, like in the late 70s into the early 80s, guys, I cannot stress to you how common it was to see a monkey at any time, anywhere, at any place. They popped up on sitcoms. There's a whole series of Clint Eastwood movies that he made with a monkey or a chimpanzee or whatever the fuck.
Right.
There was a whole thing with George Burns. George Burns is the old guy, right? I can't remember exactly what movie, but there was a lot of monkey content from like 76 to like 83 or 84. And like they put them in clothes, you know, little shirts and pairs of jeans.
I will say I like a monkey better if he's dressed up. So maybe it is that put some clothes on thing. That makes a lot of sense.
I mean, so I just, I don't know. Like I cannot help but laugh when I can't. It's automatic. They don't even have to be doing anything. I can't help myself. Now, the big ones, like the apes and the gorillas and the really big, massive ones, those, not so funny.
Very scary.
They didn't put them in the movies.
Nope, do you?
I still haven't seen it.
That?
I still haven't watched it. It's weird that talking about monkeys makes you think of it, though, because I have no idea what happens in that movie. I'm still completely unspoiled.
Wild. So yeah, I mean, you'll know what the monkeys have to do with it pretty quick.
That is,
it's not like
ominous as fuck. You will know what the monkeys have to do with it pretty quick. No, I don't want to watch it.
I'm just saying.
All right, that's enough monkey talk.
Wait, there's just one more thing. You already mentioned that, like, when he starts singing in Valerian, all the monkeys literally jump ship to their deaths, I'm assuming. Like, they're not, there's nowhere to go. And all I could think was, like, how happy Victarion will be to find out that they're gone, because he just hates them so much. And this dude not only healed his hand, he got rid of the monkeys.
Listen,
that's pretty high level help.
Victarion has already converted. He's
true,
already,
yeah.
he's the drowned god. He spent so much time thinking about the drowned god in this chapter and wondering what he did to offend them, and why won't he help save them, and what with these storms, and maybe we should go to this part of the there's like one sea they're going to travel to that's like, I think somebody tells him this is like, they call it the Isle of 100 Battles or something, because so many people have drowned and died there. And Victorian is like, well, maybe that'll make the drowned god happy, or maybe it'll just piss him off. Like he's so fed up and frustrated and feeling sort of abandoned in his faith. And then this guy shows up and heals his hand and gets rid of the monkeys all in one fell swoop. It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
You know, I didn't really think of it until just now, but us talking about how similar he is to Stannis, and now he has his own red priest. And he felt abandoned by his own gods as well, and was very vulnerable to this exact sort of like intervention.
Look at that.
That's interesting. Huh.
Also,
I never put that together.
It's mentioned that Makaro, who has been in the water for like 10 days, and they don't understand how he's still alive. Yeah, and there's no answer to that question. It's just like, oh, by the way.
I mean, there's definitely something. The fact that he is described as the shade of charcoal black that he is, and
maybe he's just been out in the sun a long time.
Nah.
No? Okay.
Melisandre has this bizarre sort of red to her. I'm going to see what, I'm sorry, I closed, in the efforts of trying to find information on how to care for kitten, I closed the Trello that has the info from Austin. And he mentioned something about this, I think. Oh yeah, here it is. Makaro, is not just dark skinned but black. While it could be that he is a particularly dark skinned person, I wonder if this is more like Melisandre having red eyes and inhumanly red hair, a sign there is something off and supernatural about him. So the fact that he survived, like, you can't tell me that Melisandre gets tossed in the ocean for 10 days and doesn't survive. Of course she does.
Of course she does.
I don't know what kills her, like, frankly.
Yep.
So I feel like maybe this is on the same level here.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Also, there was something else that Austin pointed out that we didn't mention, but Victorian is being forced into like selling slaves, and he is not into this. Like, slavery as a concept, because you took people over who could not resist because you're stronger, that's one thing. But selling people for money, he finds like really distasteful. And
well, they have the whole like money period.
Exactly.
Is, gross. Like, there's a line where he's talking about getting provisions, and he had to pay the gold price for it, and it was just gross, but it had to be done. Yeah, It's like the slavery is distasteful, but not for like the kind of moral reasons we would think one would have.
Right.
It.
Well, yeah, and because like one of the things that he says, I think, is that like men and women weren't to be bought and sold like sheep or something like this. I'm trying to find the spot where he mentions this. But the concept of it being like demeaning does seem to be sort of like packed into that. I don't know. Maybe you're right. It's just the demeaning is only related to the money.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, because it says that, he has contempt for people who are so weak that they can be enslaved.
I forgot about that. Oh, this guy. Every time I try and give him the benefit of the doubt, he has to fucking open his damn mouth.
So the selling left him feeling like, it says Victorian had only contempt for such weaklings. Even so, the selling left a foul taste in his mouth. Taking a man or a woman was right and proper as a thrall or assault wife, but men were not goats or fowl to be bought and sold for gold. So yeah, like you're saying, it's one thing to subject someone or to subjugate someone because you're stronger than them. But just like any asshole with enough gold in his pocket being able to buy a person that you didn't have to earn, you know what I mean? It's the earning of it that is like that's the missing piece for him. Like, if I'm strong enough to force you to do what the fuck I say because I'm bigger and badder than you, then I've earned the right to be your master. But some schmuck who just has $100 in his pocket can just buy somebody. That shit don't count. That's nothing. Which is, sir, I beg of you. Just because you're bigger and stronger is also not like give you the right.
Well, say that to his face.
Listen, I would too. He'd smack me 2 times.
I'm trying to see. Oh, and there's this part as well. The Doom of Valeria. On the day the Doom came to Valeria, it was said, a wall of water 300 feet high had descended on the island, drowning hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children, leaving none to tell the tale but some fisherfolk who had been at sea, and a handful of Veloci spearmen posted in a stout stone tower on the island's highest hill, who had seen the hills and valleys beneath them turn into a raging sea. Fair Velos, with its palaces of cedar and pink marble, had vanished in a heartbeat. On the north end of the island, the ancient brick walls and stepped pyramids of the slaver port Gozai had suffered the same fate. So, gone, never to be seen again. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, that bit about having witnesses was the first time I thought there were no witnesses to any of that. So I thought that was an interesting little detail.
All right. Let's move on now to Tyrion.
Yeah.
Unless you had something you wanted to add.
Nope. Tyrion's chapter is just
gross.
Yeah, y'all. It's the flux or the pox or the pale mare or whatever we're calling it, whatever you want to call it. It's all terrible. And it's all gross. There's a lot of talk of people who have no control of their bowels. And it was a lot.
This is RoShawn's particular,
you guys
gross out.
Yeah. I just, it was hard to read for all the wrong reasons. But I don't know. I think those are the right reasons. I think that's on purpose.
Well,
I mean, you would think that the captivity and the enslavement and the death would be the things that make it hard, as opposed to just the unending references to people lying in pools of their own waste. And you're just like, can we not?
Yeah.
But so the person,
and him and Penny are the ones that are like in charge of wiping this guy's ass, which is just so unfortunate.
They are all up in the mix, and the mix is no good. It is no good. Their master is sick, has caught the disease, and is actively dying. And we find out that the overseer nurse is already dead, has already died. So it's the two of them and Sweets that are tending to the master. And Sweets is just beside themselves with what Tyrion is wondering looks like genuine grief, genuine concern. And fucking Penny through this whole chapter, and the way Tyrion talks about Penny, this gentleness that he has with her, and he cannot seem to figure out why. Like, in his head, he's like, I need her to get her head out of the clouds, get with the fucking, get with the program, understand the severity of our situation, and handle herself and comport herself in a very different way than she does. And he's constantly like, doesn't she know she's a dwarf? Doesn't she know that she's not very pretty. Why isn't she acting as though she is in as much danger as she actually is? Like, she's walking around with her head like in the clouds and not based in reality. And in his head, he's very harsh with her, but in practice, he's continuing to lie to her at every turn, telling her that things are going to be okay, that they're going to be safe, they don't have anything to worry about, constantly comforting her, reassuring her. And he seems genuinely perplexed as to why he is behaving this way.
Yeah. That's my favorite part, is just the fact that he can't seem to like get himself to shatter her innocence. Is the only way I can think to put it, because he uses that word a couple times. Because there's like the whole thing with the lions. He didn't go into it knowing, but there were a lot of tells after they returned that they weren't expected to be back.
Right.
And to
the point where he then overhears.
Yeah, he overhears this guy be like, well, now what the fuck am I supposed to do? You told me not to feed the lions, and now they're hungry, and what are they going to eat? And he's just like, oh my God. And she never like clicks to this at all.
Nope.
And he even says that the one thing she complains about is that not enough people laughed.
Yeah.
At their
antics.
Penny, baby. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, well, they would have laughed a lot if they let those lions out. Is that what you want, girl? But yeah, he doesn't tell her about it. He can't bring himself to do it. And it's just kind of fascinating. It's like, even though he is constantly frustrated by her and the fact that she isn't seeing things, what she has is so fragile and rare that he can't destroy it, because it just like, there's something about it that seems to almost give him some kind of hope, weirdly. You know, I don't know.
It's like he's done so much damage in his past, in his recent past, right? He's done so many horrible things. And he just can't bring himself, no matter how badly he thinks of himself and how awful he claims to be. You know, he claims to understand that he's a degenerate and there's no, you know, he's beyond redemption and all that. But he can't bring himself to destroy yet another person, you know?
Yeah.
Especially someone like Penny, who is so innocent. He just, it's like he, not that he's telling himself consciously, this is helping me be a better person. This is proof that I'm not the monster that I think I am. But I think maybe on some like subconscious level, there might be like a line, you know, like an imaginary line where he's just like, oh, well, I haven't crossed that line yet. There's still like, you know, I still have some humanity left. I'm not that terrible. I don't know. It was just very interesting to read like how harsh he is in his head and then how gentle he is in real life with her. And how protective he is. Yeah.
He compares her to Sansa at one point, which I feel like we may have also done. But yeah, just the fact that she really thinks that things work a certain way to the point that it doesn't even occur to her to worry about it being a different way, because that's just impossible.
And that's not how it works. Yeah. And she still, like, Sansa read all the stories and all the books and the songs. And for Penny, it's basically everything that her brother ever said to her is like gospel truth, you know. There's even a part where she's like, "Oh, we can go to Karth. You know, the streets are paved with jade." My brother always said, you know, if when we perform there, gold and silver will rain down upon us. And Tyrion is just like, some of the fucking ships out in Slaver's Bay are from there, ma'am. And then he's also like, and I'm not going any further east. This is it. This is way much. This is further than I even meant to go. This is it. And she's also under the impression that her master will recover. That's the other thing too.
Oh, right. Yeah.
She's just like, he's going to live. He's, the not every person who catches this disease is going to die. He'll recover. Yeah. I don't know.
So he formulates this plan. Makes some use of the mushrooms, it seems. Did you catch this?
The water, wine, lemon sweet, and a slivers of mushrooms in the broth. Drink it down, nursey. The shit water squirting from your arse needs to be replaced. So he killed him.
Yeah.
I did not catch that when I first read it.
That's the way that I interpret this. And let me look at and see what Austin says if he mentions this, but there's some mention at one point about how like there are so many dead bodies, nobody's going to notice another one or question it at all. And this is the time, He
definitely killed him. Yeah. I don't know how that didn't jump off the page and smack me in the fucking face.
First line from Austin. Tyrion poisons nurse with mushrooms he's been holding on to since Pentos. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
There we go.
The last words he ever heard were, a Lannister always pays his debts. And then Tyrion keeps the truth of this from Penny. But he says, Tyrion kept the truth of that from Penny, but she needed to understand how things stood with their master. And so he's trying to get her to understand that he's dying. Mm-hmm. And, our future, once he's gone, is not great. He's got some heirs. They'll probably divide his property up. Who knows who will get us? Yezan, or however you say his name, only had us because he had that weird fetish for his little grotesquerie. That was the only value that we held, and that's a very sort of a
tenuous.
Yeah, right. It's a small market. Odds are we're not going to be of value to anybody else. And he says, or we could just end back up on the auction block, to her, which is the worst. She's like, oh my God, please no, not that. And they need to go get water for the master. And this turns into, he tries to go outside and get some of the guys to go get some water. And he says, go get pails of water, as many as you can carry, and be quick about it. Mm-hmm. And everybody is like, who are you talking to like that? And even I was like, why are you talking to them like that? But if we need for Tyrion to be forced to leave his duties of tending to the master, right, and get a chance to like walk away from the camp, he can't just announce like, oh, well, I'll go get the water, because one, it's not fucking efficient, Yes. And like, how much water can you possibly bring back? So he plays it to the point where they get forced to not only be the ones to go get water, but also to get Jorah to come with them.
Yes. Yeah, he's making sure to make them irritated enough that they basically tell him to get the fuck out of their face and do it themselves, and like write him off and not look too closely at what they're asking him to do, because they are enjoying the fact that they get to order him around. So he calls one of them master, and that dude just fucking eats it up. Loves it. Yep.
And he also changes the way, like, first he's out, like, go get water and be quick about it. And then he starts kind of like whining and being like, well, Sweet said the master had to have water. And they're just like, well, Sweets can go fuck himself too. Like, who is he to be giving us orders? Yeah, it's pretty fucking smart.
Yeah,
but we knew that about him.
He's
already.
very good with like human nature and just like the way that people are going to react to certain things. Asking, no. Why would you bother? These people are going to enjoy denying you, but you behave as if you don't want to do the thing, and they'll be just having so much fun making you do it anyway. Mm-hmm. It's really kind of sad, but there it is.
It could not have worked out better if they were in on it. You know what I mean? Like, it's so flawlessly executed, you almost think that the soldiers were part of the fucking plot. They played their part so well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just did exactly what he needed them to do. And to your point, he knew they would react this way because he's such a good study of human nature. Especially when it comes to things like power and power dynamics and how people respond differently depending on who you are, just giving like the order or whatever. So yeah, he fucking plays them, and not only do they give them leave to go get the water, which is, miles away, but they also get Jorah out of his cage because he has not been doing very good as a slave, and even worse as a mummer. So all he does is get beat all day, every day.
I cannot, you guys.
Uh-oh.
There is something about the description of us of the way that. Okay, hold on. I'm going to find it. When called upon to play the bear and carry off the maiden fair, he had been sullen and uncooperative, shuffling lifelessly through his paces when he deigned to take part in their mummery at all. Though he had not attempted escape nor offered violence to his captors, he would ignore their commands oft as not, or reply with muttered curses. None of this had amused Nurse, who made his displeasure clear by confining Mormon in an iron cage and having him beaten every evening as the sun sank into Slaver's Bay. The knight absorbed the beating silently. The only sounds were the muttered curses of the slaves who beat him and the dull thuds of their clubs pounding against Ser Jorah's bruised and battered flesh. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's
Mormon emerged from the confines of the cage, bent and squinting, with both eyes blackened and his back crusty with dried blood. His face was so bruised and swollen that he hardly looked human. Yikes, dude.
Yeah, it's
And
bad.
when they go into the camp later, these dudes don't even know who he is until he speaks, and then they're just like, "Hey, Jorah, what's up, man? That's you? You look like shit."
Right? Like he looks. That's how bad he looks, and he is like completely unrecognizable. Yeah. This and it's. I was surprised that he was still alive, considering this behavior of his. But again, if your thing is to get people to submit to you, then just killing them isn't enough. You want to break them. So he's still alive because Nurse was interested in breaking him, Otherwise, you just fucking you sell him to somebody else, or you just kill him. He's nothing. He's a slave. You know what I mean? You spent what you spent on him. Either you get it back, or you charge it to the game. But that is not what is important to someone like Nurse. What he wants is submission. So I'm going to keep you alive in this cage and beat you every day until you tell me what I want to hear. Meanwhile, Jorah is just like, nope.
I'm so glad that man got poisoned with mushrooms. Fuck that guy.
So they head out to the to the well, which is a little bit of a walk, and people just kind of ignore them. This is not like uncommon to see slaves going up to get water from one of the 2 or 3 wells that are around. And I think he sees the encampment of the what do they call it? The second Sons?
The Second Sons?
Is that right? Is that who Plum is with?
Yeah. What's the matter? You sound so unsure of yourself.
I got really turned around because I don't think he sees the Second Sons until they're coming back from the well.
Like they go to the well, they get their water. He does a whole thing, like performance at the well, basically, and gets everybody laughing. Like he can't help himself. He even thinks to himself, like, because everybody is out here gossiping about what happened and saying Daenerys is dead, and he can't help it, even though he knows that he should keep his mouth shut.
And people realize who they are. They're like, oh, they were there. They were the ones performing. Yeah. The rumors about her demise are somebody says they saw her fall off and then she landed in the gutter and got trampled by wagons. And I was like, that is so specific.
Right? I was like, somebody maybe did then. They saw somebody else and thought it was her or something. Like, where would you get that? But I don't know. Maybe it's just the detail that gives the lie that flavor.
Always.
Really feel.
That's how good lie works.
I remember reading about lying, like the way that people can detect whether someone's lying. And it was always a giveaway if somebody gave you too much detail that they were lying. If you ask and they can answer the question, that's one thing. But if they just volunteer lots of extra detail, they're spinning a yarn.
That's because in our minds, we think more detail makes it seem more truthful. Like, oh, it must have really happened, or they wouldn't have had so much information. But in real life, we're not paying that close attention to shit. So in real life, we're missing lots of details as in real time.
There's also when they're like, oh, you must have seen the dragon, and Tyrion's like, no.
Can you imagine?
You have a fucking look at a dragon. It was right there. Bullshit. He's so mad.
And I had been wondering if they saw her fly off, when they were at the arena. And, once I got reminded that they had performed, I was like, oh, well, then, they got to see her, they got to see her fly away. But she doesn't get to see Jorah. It never occurred to me that he missed it. that something is because it's Nurse, because Nurse comes and insists on like shackling them like right away as soon as they make their way back into like the caves or whatever. Oh my God. Yeah, the gods had not even vouchsafed him that much. Nurse had been clapping irons around their ankles to make sure they would not attempt escape. That's so unfair. It's really unfair.
Yeah. I am very salty on his behalf.
Yeah. It just feels like
so this is when they begin their... Sorry, go ahead.
I said no, it was just a real slap in the face.
But yeah, this is when they begin their trek, supposedly back to the camp. And he takes like a turn that he says is, oh, we don't want to pass by that particular spot because something or other, maybe it's people are a threat or there's infection there or something. He comes up with like some pretty believable excuses up until a certain point when Penny is like, no, we're really going in the wrong direction. What the fuck are you doing? Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, we're going to go talk to the Second Sons. And she's like, I don't want my knee shattered while I'm tied to a post by somebody using a slingshot. Can we just please go back to the camp? I would like to not be crippled for the rest of my life. And he just, the way that he tries to assuage her, let's see, Jorah says, if you think you'll find help there, you don't know Brown Ben Plum. Oh, I do. Plum and I have played 5 games of Shivas. Brown Ben is shrewd, tenacious, not unintelligent, but wary. And this is when Penny is like, we have to get back. Pretty Pig and Crunch are there. Sweets will see they're taken care of, Tyrion lied.
Yeah.
I hate that for her.
Yeah.
I don't want these poor little animals. I know they will, but God, that sucks.
It's funny. This is going to be weird to admit, but like, I found myself getting a little tired of Penny here.
I get it.
I felt so bad about it because she's relatively young and innocent, like we talked about before, and clearly terrified of breaking the rules and being punished. These are all legitimate feelings to have. She's not acting out in any way that I think is unrealistic or unacceptable. All that, and I still felt like, girl, he is trying to get y'all to freedom. What are you doing? Would you shut up?
Where is your spirit?
Right?
Completely.
Just kind of like this is, and she's so like, we keep saying that she's very innocent, but and that's true.
Childlike might be a better word.
Childlike, because I'm she's really she's not picking up what anybody's putting down ever.
No,
ever. And I don't know if she's just not very smart in that way, where she is paying attention to what's going on around her. She's just missing a lot of context for what's happening to her in real time. Like the fact that she completely doesn't pick up on anything with the lion stuff when, as best I can tell, she's right there. It's just that,
she's preoccupied with her thoughts about their performance. That's why.
Yeah.
She's in her own head.
Yeah. She's not. Yeah, that's exactly right. She is in her own head to the point where she is often not paying attention to what's happening around her, which makes it even easier for Tyrion to lie to her all the time.
Yes.
If she took a second at any point, she could think about what he's telling her, compare that to what she's witnessed with her own eyes, and decide that doesn't seem like something that's very likely to happen. You know what I mean? That, you're telling me that everything's going to be fine, but I'm looking around and the evidence does not support that. You're telling me that Sweet's going to take really good care of the dog and the pig, but I don't see any evidence that supports that either. But she's just like, oh, okay, tell me more pretty lies, because I would rather have those than the earth-shattering truth of my situation.
Indeed. Yeah, you're not alone. I definitely found myself getting impatient with her. It's like, in some ways I felt about this the way that I think a lot of us probably have felt in everyday life, where you realize, if I want any of this to work, I have to do it all myself, because nobody here is up for it. They don't get it, or they're not going to be capable of it. Like Jorah trying to front, looking the way he looks and with the attitude he always carries. What is he good for? And her with just her absolute lack of savvy, how quickly she'd be taken advantage of, God only knows. So it's all on Tyrion, and he has just decided, you know what? If it's all on me, I am just going to say whatever I need to and not really worry about whether it's true, because who can be bothered?
I love there's a couple of moments as he's taking them on this roundabout way to get to Ben, where he just stops talking and just starts walking, and he's like, hopefully they'll follow me, and then they do.
Yes,
he's just
has to take a little gamble,
right? He's just like, all right, I'm done trying to convince you. I'm heading this way, and you'd be good to follow. And then looks back, and she's slowly, here she comes. So they get to Brown Ben, and first they people kind of snatch them up, sort of just like what are you doing here? What runaway slaves, you have collars on, who do you belong to? And Tyrion kind of
I don't want any trouble from your fucking master, dude. I'm not interested in this kind of because he said before, Ben is sort of wary, and he doesn't want to start drama where there doesn't need to be drama. He is a very if it has to happen, it's for practical purposes.
Right. I'm not inviting unnecessary bullshit, especially if I don't have a lot to gain from it.
Exactly.
And what am I winning if I like start a whole fucking thing with your master? Like, what is my fucking prize? What's in it for me?
Mm-hmm. Always.
Tyrion is like, well, he's busy dying, so I don't think he's going to be that concerned about 3 runaway slaves.
Oh my god, I'm sorry guys if you can hear Pippin. He has just decided that he doesn't want to be in the office with me anymore. And I have to ask Owen to let him out. Sorry.
Woman, get up and open that door for me right now.
I'm not doing it.
That's what he sounds like. I hear like a little bit of noise, and that's what he said. That's what I hear.
He's doing this he makes this sound when he's like frustrated. That's like a combo of a whine and a yawn. And it took me a little bit to like understand the meaning of it. But whenever he's just like, I'll do it, but I don't want to. Like whenever he's sort of begrudging about stuff, he always has that sound first
noise
before he does the thing. He has to like let you know, okay, fine, but I'm not doing it because you said. I'm doing it because I want to do it.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Anyway,
so first thing that happens is some of Ben's men are like, they have brought the sickness right into our fucking house, like where we live and eat and sleep. This is an outrage. And you know what? That's kind of the correct first reaction to have. I wasn't even that mad about it.
Yes. I actually was surprised that there's no mention of Tyrion really being that concerned with catching it himself, considering how very literally up this guy's ass he has had to be. Mm-hmm. It's not mentioned that he is like watching for symptoms in himself the way that he does when he's been touched by somebody with grayscale and gets real paranoid about that, Yep.
And he even uses like very flippantly suggests to the guy who says that you're going to want to be fucking careful about cutting my head off because, my blood is poisoned, and you don't want to get any on you. And I think it's very... Actually, now that you've mentioned it, that they haven't had a single thought about catching the disease, that doesn't make any sense.
It is kind of weird, right?
It's very weird.
Yeah, it kind of bothered me, but I was like, the way that I can be.
Because we've been told how like contagious this disease is and how it spreads, and wipes out whole communities. And yeah, oh my God, he's just right there exposed to, sorry. But,
yeah, we won't get into that.
But yeah, no, you're right though. But it doesn't seem like it's concerning him at all, and to the point where he can be kind of flippant about the fact that he might have the disease himself. And then
I'm assuming that he figures if he hasn't caught it yet, that he won't. Like, I don't really know if there's a real reason to assume that beyond foolhardiness, but that's sort of the way it reads to me.
When he says blood carries the disease, and I don't know how true that is or not. I don't recall how it spreads really being mentioned explicitly. So I have been operating under a bunch of assumptions and thinking that it can spread the way like a virus maybe spreads. But if it really is just blood contact, then maybe that's why he feels like he's safe. But if it's blood contact, then how is it spreading through like whole communities? You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't even know if it's important enough to really get bogged down in. But yeah. But Ben does not feel like also like they're too dangerous to be around. Some of his men suggest that, but Ben doesn't. Ben like immediately cast them out out of fear that they're contagious. I don't know.
Yeah, it's unclear, and I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. If anybody listening has like a suggestion on this one, but
so yeah.
In the end, Tyrion says, "You can talk of old times later." Regarding Jorah, after I'm done explaining why my head would be of more use to you upon my shoulders. You will find, Lord Plum, that I can be very generous to my friends. If you doubt me, ask Bronn. Ask Shagga, son of Dulf. Ask Timett, son of Timett. And this dude is like, you could have just made all those men up. He's like, yeah, I could have done.
Shagga sounds like a woman's name.
And he's also like acknowledges the legend of how Brown Ben has the Targaryen blood way back, and that he was probably treated well by her dragons, and that they liked him.
I love
and
that.
That seems to sort of, tickle his pride a little bit.
Absolutely.
Gain him some points.
Yep. And he tells like that, like knowing that that's something that's important to Ben, and that's going to be like a way to flatter him. And he also is talking about reminding us and reminding Ben that you know who I really am, right? And you know what my head is worth. And says that if you take my head back, my sister's going to deny it's me. And she's not going to fucking pay you. And then he says, you know how it is with queens, fickle cunts, the lot of them. Which is like some shade to Daenerys, right? We've thrown a little Daenerys shit there. And then he says, and Cersei is the worst, because we got to make sure that we remind everybody. I just really laughed at that whole exchange.
I really think that he's even like right about this, that she would deny that it was him. Like, what does she care? He says like, well, I could bring you to her alive and wriggling. How about that? But he's a lot more trouble than he's worth in that respect, Ben. I don't know, man.
I mean, and Ben knows that. Ben has spent some time. Yeah. He knows that. I love this bit too here where Tyrion is like, well, you could throw in with me. I was born a second son. This company is my destiny. I don't know why, but that really, really made me laugh. And somebody
he's full of japes, this one.
Oh my god. One of the other dudes is like, we don't have any fucking place for mummers. It's fighters we need. And this is when Tyrion is like, I bought you one of those. And I think this is when is this when he when they finally realized who Jorah is, because he finally speaks?
I think so. Yeah. Right after that, because they look at Jorah at first and they're like, "You brought this guy? Come on, the fuck is he gonna do? He's just some big brute that's been beaten, and just because he's gotten the shit beat out of him does not mean he's a fighter." Right.
And then, this fucking the guy that keeps talking shit, like the one that wants to cut his head off, and the one that tells him that we don't need mummers. Tyrion is like, who's this fucking guy? And that's when Jorah's like, oh, that's whatever his name is. He's the paymaster, and this other one is the Casporio the Cunning. A nasty piece of work, Jorah calls him. And then everybody is just like, oh my god. And fucking Ben is like, she sent you away. And Jorah just says, I came back. Call me a fool.
There is something very funny about just like, I came back.
It's just like fucking like so casual. It's like, I don't know. It's just like really understated considering the circumstances, the fact that he's a beaten, bloody mess, the fact that he's a slave now, he's got a collar on, like, oh, I came back. I feel like he left out a big part of the story. A big chunk of the story is missing.
Nah, that's all we need. But yeah, in the end, Tyrion just like does that thing where he takes it for granted he's getting his way. Hey, is that a Shavas set over there? Bring it out. We'll have that game. But first, a cup of wine. My throat is dry as an old bone, and I can see that I have a deal of talking to do.
Yeah.
And that's the end of his chapter.
So this is interesting because, let me make sure I'm not completely upside down, which I really might be. Let me get my facts straight. So in the time that our friends have been separated, Ben betrayed Daenerys, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's not really a way for Tyrion or Jorah. Would they know that? Like, I'm trying to think because of where they are. The fact that Ben is here, where is Tyrion and Jorah now? They're in Marine,
Right?
And they're at this. The Second Sons are camped out there and not at the palace with Daenerys. So I guess that would be a clue. But they wouldn't know for a fact that he betrayed her. Would they know that?
I feel like they would. I don't remember how public her attempt to because remember she has him come before her willing to hear out an apology that he does not have any interest in giving. And she's on her throne at the time, and I can't remember how many people are in the room if she had it emptied out, but I kind of felt like this was done semi-publicly. Okay. So that probably a lot of people would know about it.
Okay.
I would think.
And I guess if there's active fighting going on, you would know who threw in with who, right? So right. You would know that the Second Sons are now fighting on behalf of whoever it is that they went over to, the young Kai or whichever person. I can't remember exactly who he threw into, who bought him. So I guess that would be common knowledge. That's very interesting because then,
we got two betrayers now.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking, right? And also, like, I'm trying to imagine a world in which Tyrion eventually makes it in front of Daenerys, and he's in a company of two people that stabbed her in the back. That's not going to be great. I know on the show they had him come back with just with Jorah. I can't remember exactly how that all played out, but I remember it was like a little bit of a problem that he was, that it was Tyrion showing up with Jorah after the way that he, what he had done. But being double that just doesn't seem like a way to her heart. I don't know. I hope we get, I feel pretty confident that I'll have more Tyrion chapters. So I feel like I might get some. You're not worried about it? Not too worried about it. I hope I'm not jinxing myself, but I feel like I'll get at least 2 more Tyrion POVs, so I'll get to find out what exactly he proposes to them and how he thinks he can make this work. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I hope I'm not disappointed.
I hope you're not too. That's the last thing I want. But yeah, so that's the end of the chapter. I got a heads up from Austin that there are an uneven number of chapters left. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer to decide, but there's a possibility that we will do a spoiler chapter because old George released some chapters from the alleged next book early as a bit of
when was that?
Amuse-bouche. What?
When was that?
Oh,
ages ago
now.
Oh, okay.
And they're pretty interesting. So I did want to go through them anyway. So I'm thinking that we may do that. I don't know what order to do them in yet. I will look at them myself and also consult with the national
Council.
crowds of people that we've got going on. Yeah, international, really. But just wanted to let y'all know that we will be doing the spoiler chapters as well. And I wanted to give everybody a heads up that on the 25th of May, a Saturday in the evening, we will be doing a dance party on Zoom, like a virtual dance party. So if you want to hang out with us and listen to the Beyonce album Renaissance, which is fantastic and a really great, like sort of seamless dance album that has amazing transitions, come and hang out. The link is on the Patreon. If you join as a free member, you'll be able to see it, and I will be reposting it again as well so that you can add it to your calendar and save the link and whatnot. But everybody is invited, and I am looking forward to just like cutting loose and having a good time, because we all need a little bit of happiness in our lives. We need a boost.
Yes, we do. We need a little boost of serotonin, a little something to, I don't know, shake the cobwebs out. We're going into coming into the summer, and I had really high hopes for this summer. And things have gotten a little bumpy. I am going to try to reset and realign and continue to have high hopes for the summer. And I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try to MacGyver the fuck out of it so that I can have some, some joy this summer. And I think that the dance party is going to be a good way to try to kick off that energy and try to like refocus and just have some fun, which has been in short supply.
So yeah, everybody go to patreon.com/unspoiled, become a member, either a free member or you can become a paying member and get access to all kinds of stuff. Plus you'll get this episode ad free. And I really hope that y'all have been enjoying our coverage. Thank you again to Austin. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.